Hey there, Derek Rydall here, founder of the Law of Emergence and author of the best-selling books, Emergence and the Abundance Project. Actually, there they are right there. And I'm coming back to doing these talks after a little bit of a hiatus. I've been in a very deep journey, as I know many of you have been over the last couple of years, and especially over the last year or so. And some of you may know that a little over a year ago, 18 months or so, I lost my son. And so I was dealing with not only a raging pandemic and quarantines and lockdowns and all the financial and business challenges that brings with it, and has brought many individuals, but also the death of my boy. And I'm not going to go into the depths of that particular experience now. I've shared about that more in other places, and I will share more about it in the months and to come. But one of the things it did for me is it really shook me to my core, to say the least. And my deepest prayer for so long and continually is to know the truth more than I want to fix, change, heal, control, manipulate anybody or anything, including myself. I want to know the truth that makes me free. I want to know, as Einstein would say, I want to know the mind of God, whether he meant exactly what I mean. Um, and that's been a deep, deep desire. And one of the prayers as part of that is I want, to, in the face of any condition, in the face of any experience, I want to be anchored in the truth that makes me free, in the truth that allows me to be an agent and an instrument of peace and love and generosity and compassion. So that's a pretty big prayer. Now, it's the kind of prayer that no sane human being would ever pray. So it wasn't really a prayer I prayed humanly, it was a prayer that prayed me. It's a prayer that's captured me over the years to be a transparency of ultimate reality, to be an instrument of God, of divine, of higher power, whatever metaphor works for you, of the truth. And in this, uh, you know, conflagration that was the tragic loss of my son and the pandemic and everything, this perfect storm, what happened was an acceleration of the activation of that prayer, meaning that every place in me, or at least many places in me, where I was still stuck in a kind of arrogance, or not a kind of arrogance, an arrogance, a self-righteousness, a Mr. Know-it-allness, which I've been since I was a little kid. All the places where I was, I was sure that I knew things. All the places where I was sure that I was something or that I could do something. I of myself am something. All of that really got burnt to the ground. And it's continually being burnt to the ground. The fire is still smoldering if you just look close enough. And as a result of that deep humility, it was kind of like my own little miniature Job, my own little miniature, from the biblical story of Job, where everything kind of got taken away and seemingly taken away, at least in the short term. And what could go wrong kind of did go wrong, at least on one level. The saving grace was I was surrounded by a lot of love. And particularly my wife and my family and my community. But the key is it was a deep humbling. It continues to be a deep humbling. And one of the greatest realizations in the midst of this, while so many people out in the world have been going crazy with this idea that there's a conspiracy here and a conspiracy there, and they're lying and they're telling the truth, and I know the truth and you don't know the truth, and it's vax and anti-vax and mask and anti-mask and QAnon and XYZ anon and whatever. This increasing doubling down on I'm right, you're wrong, this polarization of good and evil, which is really the nature of an Armageddon, of an apocalypse. And an apocalypse means that which is hidden is being revealed. And we've misinterpreted, many people, that when the Bible talks about Revelation and Armageddon and apocalypse, that it's the destruction of the world materially. Although there may be some of that, or maybe even the destruction of an individual. That's some of that, but the real destruction is the destruction of our concepts of the world, the destruction of our ideas of the world, of our maps of reality and our own identities. That's a real Armageddon. That's what really gets annihilated and broken down and destroyed. And often, if we're willing, it also means many of our cherished beliefs, many of our cherished stories, many of the things we've held on to that have given us a sense of safety and security and a sense of value and purpose and worth. In order to really ultimately be free, we have to finally be willing to let go of all of that. What the Bible would say, yesterday's manna. All that we knew yesterday, all that we believed yesterday, all that we thought life was and we are yesterday, all that I thought you were, or my wife, or my kids, or whatever, that I have to be willing to let that go today and start again and start from scratch every day. Because my belief about you or about me, or my belief about the world, or my belief about anybody or anything is not the truth. Not even if it's facts, not even if it's data, not if it's even empirical evidence. It's still not the truth. Because the truth, by definition, cannot be limited. The truth cannot be added to. The truth cannot be improved upon. You understand what I'm saying? If it's truth, you can't improve upon it. It doesn't change. It can't be added to. Okay? So, by definition, the truth is infinite. And we can see historically, anything we've thought was true, even scientifically, it evolves. And one paradigm swallows the next paradigm. And now we realize, oh, it's not merely atomic. Life is not merely a bunch of billiard balls, atoms smashing into each other, that actually atoms are mostly empty space and there's something at a quantum level. That doesn't make the atomic level of reality wrong or bad. It just makes it relative and not actually the truth about reality. And likewise, the quantum level, we may be so certain it's the truth, but we even now are beginning to realize that there's flaws in that and there's things that don't add up because it's not the truth. It's another relative perception of an infinite perfection. And the infinite perfection can never be known or captured or obtained entirely. And so the same thing goes for whatever you think about you, whatever you think about your partner or your family members, whatever your absolute certain rigid righteous beliefs, either about how good you are, or how bad you are, or how good they are, or how bad they are, it is by definition not true. Now, why is this important? Because we don't experience life as it really is. We experience life through our concepts of it, through our perception of it. And so whatever we hold on to as a belief, as a story, as a truth, that is the box we imprison ourselves in. And that includes even our what we believe about our body, that the body is material or that it's energetic or that it's emotional. None of that is true. Nothing I'm even saying is true. Like the Zen statement, it's the finger pointing to the moon, right? And we get caught up in the finger and we miss the moon. And so it's valid and necessary to keep opening up to greater realizations of the truth, greater realizations of who and what you really are and what's really going on in the world and what's trying to emerge. But we want to be more interested, rather than in saving the world or saving ourselves or saving our identities and maps of reality and fighting and killing and dying for them. We want to be more interested in serving what's emerging. Because the truth is what I am. It is what you are at your core. It is not what you think about what you are. It is not what you feel about what you are. It is not what you say or anybody else says about you. It is not even what you appear to be. It is what you are. I am the truth. I am the way. I cannot merely find the way. That infinite something in the midst of us that is forever unfolding if we'll let it. That is the truth. These words about it aren't the truth. And so when we get stuck in a word, in a concept, in a belief, in an appearance, mentally, emotionally, physically, astrally, etherically, financially, economically, religiously, politically. We are now, by definition, entombed. We are imprisoned. That's really one of the great messages of a teaching like Jesus is teaching. He was coming to free us from the tombs of our own limited thinking and believing. The ultimate one being death, that even death is a concept, a relative parenthesis in eternity. It's not the truth about us or about anything. And so is all, he said, I did not come to bring peace, I've come with a sword. And he came to shatter all these places we had become imprisoned and entombed in our concepts of gender, of race, of economics, of family, of religion. He came to shatter all of those and say, you're completely asleep and you're completely entombed and you're imprisoned by all these ideas of what women should be, that women can be rabbis or not, what the Sabbath is, what man is, what religion is, what God is. You're just completely lost in all of your ritualized and calcified concepts of life and love and family and relationships and men and women and religion. And I'm coming to shatter all of that. And that's what any great truth teacher does, or any great thought leader. If you're watching this and you want to be a change maker, a thought leader, you want to live the highest truth and maybe be a light in the world, the only way you can do that is by being more interested and more invested in and more committed to and more a servant of what is that deepest truth emerging in you versus status quo, proving something, being right, making someone wrong. That whole game of good and evil, that whole game of right and wrong, which is the story of the Garden of Eden, is the core of all of our suffering, because it will constantly keep recreating and reproducing artifacts, stories, simulations, matrices of good and evil, right and wrong, should and shouldn't, etc., forever, endlessly. It's not just turtles all the way down, it's good and evil all the way down, right? And so this first just initial talk here is just to begin to recognize in this series called To Tell the Truth, and that the truth is not out there. No amount of reading the internet or going down any outside rabbit hole is ever going to get you to the truth of anything. The truth is in you. But it takes practice and it takes a level of commitment to begin to discern what truth looks like and feels like. It's not the words or the thoughts. It's an inner frequency. It's an inner feeling tone. It's an inner presence. When you touch the truth, there's a release. There's a relief. There's a sense of joy. There's a sense of peace. It takes your breath away, even before the words show up or the images or the colors, whatever, right? It's a sense more than it is a sentence, right? If you think it's a sentence, as in words, you will end up doing a sentence, as in jail, because you'll be caught in that syntax, in that particular concept. So just over the next few days, I just invite you to begin to question everything you are believing. Question everything you believe. Question everything you think. Question every opinion you have. When you find yourself saying, God, that guy is such a jerk, or that person is so awesome, go, is that true? What's the truth in this? Or I'm a jerk, or I'm awesome, or I suck, or whatever it is. Just pause and go, that's an interesting concept. It's an interesting belief. Or I'm getting old. That's an interesting concept. The idea of getting old. Is that even true? Can I get old? Can life actually get old? Like, you start to go and become a contemplative, because all of these layers of stories and beliefs that we take for granted about ourselves, each other, and the world are nothing but mental constructs. Little prisons inside of bigger prisons inside of bigger prisons. And as you start to contemplate, you will begin to see through that, and you'll begin to have moments where there's a break. You shoot the gap of your thinking, and you have a sense of suddenly there's a clearing, right? And there's a sense of expansion, or as I said, release or relief or freedom. And then there may be a word that bubbles up, or a phrase or a sentence or some sacred scripture, right? And you're beginning to touch the truth. And there are sacred scriptures and principles that are true in one sense, in the sense that if you practice them and live by them and get aligned with them, they will show up in your life as improved harmony. But the sentence itself is still not the truth. And so you always have to come back to beginner's mind. And every day practice letting go of an opinion, letting go of a judgment, letting go of all your ideas. Remember in the beginning, I said, I've been going through my own sort of Job story, like the biblical Job. Well, one of the problems Job had was he thought he knew God. He thought he knew what was. And so God's like, hey, were you there when I put, air into the nostrils of the horse? Were you there when I laid the foundations of the earth? Were you there when I put up the pillars of existence? Were you there when I, activated the lightning or plumbed the depths of the, basically, dude, you don't have a freaking clue what's going on here. You're Mr. Righteous and Pious. You don't know what's actually happening. Only God does. Only this infinite existence does. So let go of the notion that you do, because you don't. And there was a great humbling and a great sense of awe returned. And ultimately, Job's life was restored. He became a child again. He became innocent again. He became open at the top. And of ourselves, we don't know nothing. We aren't nothing. We have no power. Like a branch cut off from a tree that withers and dies. But when we get humble enough to know that we don't know, but to know that there is a deep and infinite knowing always in us, always emerging in us, and we become a servant of that deep well of knowing, now miracles can happen, manifestation can happen, healing, renewal, inspiration, wisdom, etc. And it can continue to flow and unfold without limit until you grab onto it and try to hold it and save it and say, this is what it is, this is the truth. And then you lose it, right? If you try to save your life, you lose it. If you're willing to lose your life, you'll find it, as the great saying goes. So that's my invitation to you for this first round. Start to just practice letting go of all your opinions, or at least one opinion and judgment every day. And every day, just imagine consciously releasing all that you believe and all that you know from everything before. Just release it into the light or into a cauldron, and just open up like a child and say, more than I want to fix, change, heal, control anything or anyone, including myself, I want to know the truth that makes me free. Use me, God. Use me, love. Use me, life. I'm willing, I'm ready to open my eyes and to really see. And just notice what begins to happen. And I'll see you on the other side. And until then, remember, live authentically, love unconditionally, and follow your destiny. Take care, everybody.